What is up, guys? Dzeeff here, and a few days ago I talked about the Bee Trooper World Premiere cards from Burst of Destiny. Today, though, we're talking about the other World Premiere cards that I found pretty interesting. So this set has a number of new World Premiere cards that could be used in competitive play. We have a new Reptile support card that's pretty good, we have a new Trap card that's really interesting, and we have a new Fish Link 2 monster that I think has a ton of potential. In today's video, I'm going to give my first impressions on these cards. I think they're pretty cool, but keep in mind here, I believe all of these cards are common, so don't expect anything too broken for today's discussion. I also wanted to mention that today's video is sponsored by Ridge Wallets. If you're sick of your old, outdated, bulky leather wallet, Ridge makes the perfect upgrade for you. You've probably seen these before, but they make these really cool, sleek, industrial looking wallets. They come in a variety of colors. They have a money clip on the back. They can hold up to 12 cards. If you guys are interested in one of these Ridge wallets, make sure to go to ridge.com/Dzeeff and use promo code Dzeeff at checkout for 10% off of your order. Ridge is a longtime channel sponsor, so thank you for sponsoring today's video. Anyway, let's take a look at these first two World Premiere cards. I'm going to talk about Night Sword Serpent first. I think this card is the better of these two. So Night Sword Serpent is a level 4 water reptile effect monster with 500 attack and 600 defense. It has a very simple effect. It says if this card is sent to the graveyard by a card effect, either player's card effect, you can special summon this card, but banish it when it leaves the field. You can only use this effect of Night Sword Serpent once per turn. The obvious combo here is to use Snake Rain to send some reptiles to the grave, including at least one Night Sword Serpent. It is a hard once per turn, so it's not like you can send 3 of them to the grave with Snake Rain and special summon all 3 of them, but I think even getting that one special summon does make Snake Rain a bit better. As we learned, even though we did get a bunch of reptile support not too long ago, it ended up not being enough for reptiles to be competitively viable. Is Night Sword Serpent enough to make a reptile deck competitive? Probably not, but it is a step in the right direction. Turns out, even though Snake Rain is one of the craziest cards I've ever seen on paper, in practice, having an unsearchable 3 of that's very powerful isn't enough to carry an entire deck. You need other good cards. Night Sword Serpent, though, doesn't necessarily have to go in a reptile deck. You could find other uses for it. There are plenty of decks that send cards to the graveyard by card effects. That being said, I think a reptile deck is probably the most natural fit for this card, but I can't wait to see what people are able to come up with. The other card in this picture is DD Assault Carrier. This card isn't super crazy, but it's kind of interesting. So this is a level 8 Dark Machine effect monster with 2500 attack and defense. It says cannot declare an attack unless you banish 1 card from your graveyard. If exactly 3 of your cards are banished, you can special summon this card from your hand. You can only use this effect of DD Assault Carrier once per turn. Now, what decks could this card go into? That part I'm not really sure about. You can't really play it in a Gren Maju deck because they're usually going to have a way more than 3 cards banished. There are a few like funny combos with this card, like if you only banish 3 off Prosperity, you could special summon this card immediately, but other than that, I don't think this card is that great in any deck out there right now. It's simply not impactful enough to try and build a deck around, and I think the decks that are playing cards like Prosperity probably don't need DD Assault Carrier. That being said, maybe I'm wrong here, maybe the card is better than I think it is, but at the moment I just can't see where this card would fit in. This next picture shows 1 OCG import, Signet Cascade, and 1 World Premiere, Apex Predation. Now this card is very cool. You can see there's a Steel Swarm monster in the artwork there, which is perfect because this card is all about normal summons versus special summons. Apex Predation is a normal trap card that says if you control a normal summoned or set monster, destroy all special summon monsters on the field. Until the end of your next turn after this card is activated, you cannot normal summon or set. You can only activate 1 Apex Predation once per turn. That is a very powerful effect. Consider this, over the past year or so, maybe a little bit longer than that, Torrential Tribute and Needle Sealing have been in and out of the metagame in a variety of trap decks, and Apex Predation is basically played for a similar reason, but it won't destroy your own normal summoned or set monsters, which could be pretty valuable. I think of when I play Altergeist and I have Torrential Tribute set when I only control a Marionetter with a protocol, sometimes it's a bit awkward to to Torrential earlier on in the turn because I then know I can't use the protocol because I won't have the Marionetter anymore. Of course, if I opened Faker, that doesn't really matter, but there are some cases where you don't have access to Faker, and it really does suck getting rid of your only monster. With Apex Predation though, I would potentially still be able to use that protocol by sending the Marionetter to the graveyard, and that could be very good in different matchups. I will say here that Apex Predation is a bit tricky to use with that downside. I think for Altergeist it doesn't really matter that much because after you use this card, hopefully you can just like combo off by only special summoning. You just can't get that normal summon. So for example, a turn setup would be like normal summon Marionetter on turn 1, set this card, use it to wipe the board on the opponent's turn, and then on my next turn I could special a Faker, special a Meloseek, summon a Hextia, and start comboing off there without using my normal summon. Notably, this card says you can only activate one Apex Predation per turn instead of you can only use one Apex Predation per turn, and in Yu-Gi-Oh! Those two terms have different meanings. For example, right now with the current text on this card, if you activated it and then your opponent negated the activation, you could simply flip up another one to try and wipe the board again. That is a very good thing for a card like this that oftentimes will be played going second in trap decks to try and level the playing field. I like Apex Predation quite a bit. I think this card is going to go under the radar, but I think it's a card I'm going to try out as soon as Burst of Destiny releases in the TCG. It's not the flashiest card, and Torrential might be better in some cases, but I think it is a good card, possibly even a card that you could play in addition to Torrential Tribute in your deck. Finally, we have a new world premiere Link 2 fish monster, Abyss Keeper. This kind of came out of nowhere, but I actually think this card is really good. I think it has a lot of potential. So Abyss Keeper is a Link 2 with 1500 attack points. It takes any 2 water monsters to bring out. It's a fish monster, and it says cannot be used as Link material the turn it is Link summoned. If this card is Link summoned, you can special summon one fish monster from your hand to a zone this card points to. Notably, both of the arrows on this card are quite good. You can target one other fish monster you control and one card your opponent controls. Banish those cards. You can only use each effect of Abyss Keeper once per turn. I mean, this card seems crazy, right? Also, I think the artwork is hilarious, but this card seems really good. It's a free special summon. You could maybe even get out Coelacanth. That'd be pretty overpowered. And then you can like banish a card your opponent controls by banishing another fish monster you control. How is this card not being talked about more? I mean, I get it. Fish are kind of in the same boat as like insects or reptiles where they haven't had a lot of good archetypes throughout Yu-Gi-Oh's history, but I think Abyss Keeper actually might change that. I mean, I'm surprised more people aren't bringing it up. That being said, I think that Abyss Keeper probably does need more support to be good, but it is a very powerful Link 2 that has a lot of potential in the future. I'm thinking of like the upcoming Legendary Duel set that has a bunch of water monsters. Maybe those could be combined with Abyss Keeper to make a good fish type deck. I don't know, let me know in the comment section what you guys think about this card and the other cards that I talked about in today's video. Personally, I think especially considering they're all commons, a lot of them are pretty interesting and could have potential in future decks. I'll see you later though, thanks so much for watching, goodbye.